FM, also streaming from that SuperTalk Mississippi app and your local SuperTalk Mississippi radio station. But don't forget, you can watch us if you would like. We are on your computer, your mobile device. Just head on over to SuperTalk TV. Now, we all know that our teachers and our administrators give back to the students in a variety of ways. And today we're going to hear a good thing coming out of Brandon Middle School. Joining us is Jacob Veenstra. He is an assistant principal there, and he's also the leader of the Real Men Mentoring Program. So welcome, Jacob.
Hey, how are you today?
I am doing well. I appreciate you joining us on your spring break, taking a little time from the classroom, but to share some good things that are going on there. So I first came across this story, Jacob, because, my daughter is actually a student there at Brandon Middle. And so I saw the good work that you guys were doing, and I thought, man, I wonder if other schools have programs like this or what all is really going on. So kind of explain the Real Men Mentoring Program that you started there at Brandon Middle.
Sure. So this is my 6th year as an administrator, and my first year was at Clinton Junior High School. And when I first came in, my principal there, Miss Billings, and I were talking about what were the needs that she saw in our building. And we started looking at behavioral logs, we started looking at academic records, and we started to see a trend where a lot of our young men were struggling in different aspects. So we dug a little bit deeper, and she began to talk about some of her concerns with a lot of the boys there that came from fatherless homes. So we said, what can we do about it? How can we help target this issue? So we started digging in. We identified a lot of the boys there that came from single-parent homes, and then a lot of boys who just needed some guys to talk to about life, whether it was because father was in the military and deployed, or whether it was just because father's doing everything they can at home and they need a little extra help. So we started building that list, and I started reaching out to different guys in the community there at Clinton, and got a whole bunch of men to jump in, and we started just meeting with these young men. So REAL is an acronym, and REAL stands for Respect Everyone, especially women, always do the right thing, live a life that matters. So each week we sit down and we talk with the boys about different ways you can do that as a middle school student, because, of course, it looks different for, a 40-year-old man like me versus an 11, 12, 13-year-old boy. How does that look for you in your daily life? So each week we just break down some part of that acronym. We get to do lots of fun things with the boys as well. I'm sure some of the things that people saw was the other week when everyone was pulling in the car out of line, the boys are outside with their mentors. They're learning how to change a tire. Just having fun out there with them, and then having those little talks that sometimes you miss out on when either you were given a circumstance where your father may not be as readily available, or just because, you need the extra support. So the boys in the program, they're not necessarily all coming from that dynamic, but they are just parents who have reached out and said, hey, can my boy be a part of this, just because it's good to have a man to talk to about life.
Amen to that. I think this is great. I also think, but it gives them the opportunity, sometimes even if they have, a good dad in their life, you don't want to tell them everything, right? And sometimes hearing the things from other people can be very helpful. I know that as a mom of 2 girls, sometimes I appreciate those, aunts that aren't family, to kind of come in and give a little wisdom as well. Do the boys volunteer? So the moms or the adults in the young men's life sort of volunteer them for it. Do the boys, do they seem at first, is it kind of awkward, or do they kind of come in, ready to learn something or eager for that kind of connection?
So, the best way to get people plugged into something is to feed them. So we've been blessed to have lots of community churches and other organizations that each week when we meet, they will bring breakfast for the boys. So when day one walks in and you see a whole bunch of random guys sitting at these tables in the library, but you also see a table full of donuts or a table full of Chick-fil-A biscuits, that eases the tension just a little bit for them. So before we started bringing the boys in, I sent a letter home with each of them to their parents, just letting them know this is what the program is. I'd love for your son to be involved in it. And there's only been a few and far in between where a parent has said, I don't really want my son there. But it seems to be any child that is invited wants to be there. In fact, each morning I'm having to check the roll because we have lots of random boys who just say, can I come in? I want to be there. I want to come. And it's hard for me to say no.
They want the donuts,
never
too.
Want to turn them away. Oh, they do. They definitely. They see that food, and they got to see them in the parking lot having fun. And what's even better about it is a lot of the boys will go back and tell their teachers what they learned this morning, and the boys in the class will hear about it. And I've had emails from students all the time that say, "Mr. Veenstra, how do I get to be a part of that?" And that definitely does the heart good.
That definitely does the heart good, too. And I'm sure for the parents to watch them be able to make those connections. You mentioned, Jacob, that you're obviously volunteering your time for this as an administrator. You're already at the school. But you said community members were kind of stepping in, too, or at least they're in Clinton. Is that the same in Brandon? Do you have other volunteer men not within the administration that are stepping in to sort of help mentor these students?
Definitely. So this program would not work if it wasn't for the community. With the responsibilities that each of us have walking into school each day, I can only pull myself and maybe 2 to 3 other male employees of the school to just be there. So if it wasn't for community members like Mr. Gary Simon, who is just a retired great man he wants to pour into kids' lives and comes in every week. If it wasn't for Crossgates Baptist and their youth pastors bringing men in, if it wasn't for Pastor Bill Parker at the missionary church, there are just men from all different walks of life that show up each time we have a meeting. And if it was not for them, this program would have zero success.
Does it start with the young men in 6th grade? Because I know you're at Brandon Middle, and go 7th and 8th, or are y'all focusing on one grade or the other?
So we do all 3 grades. So right now there are 72 boys that get invited every week to come. Sometimes, buses are the biggest nightmare for us with transportation in Brandon. So a lot of times boys are coming in towards the end of the session, but we set up in the library, and there's roughly 12 tables there. And at each table there's a mentor, and maybe 2, according to, how many are able to come that day. And about 5 to 6 kids at each table. They have whatever agenda we've decided to talk about that day. I'll give a little talk about just, hey, this is what we're focusing on. And then for about 15 minutes, the mentors go through these different guided questions with the boys and just say, hey, how can you show respect? Like one of the first lessons was we made rules of respect. And we said, we should always respect women. So they would break it down further and say, well, what does that look like? How do you actually respect a lady at school? How do you respect a classmate? How do you respect your teacher? Then the biggest lesson for me that always resonates the most is living a life that matters. And we talk about what is your legacy going to be? When you are done with this world and people are looking back at you, what are they going to say? And we build that with them, even as a 11-year-old child, saying, hey, you're building that legacy now. The decisions you are making at this point is building who you will be when you're 30, 40, 50. So how are you trying to set that foundation as a middle school student? So about the time you graduate high school, you've already got these different characteristics about you that are going to help you become successful.
Gosh, I hope dads and uncles and everybody listening to Good Things, even if you don't have a child who needs like a mentoring part, be asking these questions. When you're tinkering on the car, or when you're, enjoying a pickup game of basketball with them in the backyard or whatever it may be. I think all young minds need to be thinking about the future in a positive way so they can start laying the path for that, Jacob. So kudos to you and all the volunteers. I feel like this could be very replicable if other schools listening wanted to do something similar or sort of learn more. Is there an easy way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my email, jac517@rcsd. I'm sure you might have to put that up there for them, but I 100% want this to be something that every middle school, high school, even elementary is looking at to say, when we're in our school setting, a lot of times people believe teachers' job is just to get them in there, teach them what they need to know, and get them out. But that is just a small piece of what education is. Our goal is when they leave our building, they're better people, not just academically, but socially, emotionally. We want them to be the best version of themselves. So if anyone's interested in that, I would love to sit down, talk with them, share resources. It's something that we have seen not only when I was at Clinton, but also at Brandon. These young men who have taken this and ran with it, their grades have improved, their behavior has improved. So it does make life easier for the teachers in the classroom, but also it just makes them better people.
It sets them up, too, for a better...
Ms. Varner, Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say it just sets them up for a better future, too. I mean, anytime you can be directed in the right way. Well, Jacob, I appreciate your time and what you're doing with the Real Men Mentoring there at Brandon Middle, and go enjoy your spring break.
Yes, ma'am. Y'all have a great day.
All righty, you guys stick with us. We got more good for you coming up.